Okay, we're on to 3 structural types of sentences. So, number 1, how to build simple sentences. Okay, let's start easy here. So, what are the basic elements of a simple sentence or sentences that contain one independent clause? Okay, so as we looked at earlier in Unit 2, we have a very simple sentence with just a subject and verb. Okay, so for simplicity's sake, we're going to use I am and he is. Okay, so very, very simple declarative sentences. You're just basically making a statement. I am, he is. Okay, and the same thing in Italian. We have il soggetto and il verbo. So you could say io sono. But remember, you don't need to include the subject or the subject pronoun, I should say, except for clarity or emphasis. Okay, so in this case, you could technically say sono. Or for emphasis, you can reverse it as in, who is it? It's me. Chi è? Sono io. Sono io. Okay, so sometimes when you want to put emphasis on a word in Italian, you put it at the end. And furthermore, for this sentence, lui è, okay, he is, lui è. You can also reverse it as in who's speaking, it's him. Chi parla è lui. Okay, it's him, è lui. Okay, and that's a very, very simple way to make a very short statement. Okay, that's a basic, simple, short sentence. Okay, so how can you make a sentence longer? So we have our subject and verb, once again, and then you can add on things like an adjective, an adverb, and then an article, a noun. For example, I am, okay, we have I am, as in before, I am, and then you add on happy, okay, add the adjective happy, or you could say I run quickly, okay, we're adding on an adverb here to our subject and verb, or I have a book, okay, so you don't always need the article, but in this case you do, so I have article, noun, a book. Okay, and then exact same thing in Italian. So we have il soggetto, il verbo, and then you can add on one of these guys at the end here. So io sono, once again, I am happy. Io sono felice is our adjective. Io, or not, io corro velocemente is our avverbio, is our adverb. And again, io is optional. So you could say io ho un libro or ho un libro, okay? Which would be adding on our articolo and sostantivo or nome. Okay, and that's how you build a very short sentence and how you can gradually make it longer as you add on more of these elements of grammar in here, okay? Pretty simple, right? I mean, once you get into it a bit and it starts to make sense, and then you can see how it's basically just like building a little structure. Okay, so you're just kind of putting all the pieces together to form sentences. And then you put sentences together to form paragraphs. And then you put paragraphs together to form, long whatever pages or however long you want to make something. So you just got to start with the very, very basics and then just build up from there. Number 2, how to build complex sentences. So how can I make complex sentences, which means one independent clause plus one or more dependent clauses? Okay, so let's look at an example here. So an independent clause in this case would be I see the keys, okay, because this can stand on its own. It's independent. It can be a complete sentence by just saying I see the keys, period. Okay, but we're going to make a longer sentence or a complex sentence in this case because we're adding on one or more dependent clauses. Okay, so we have this dependent clause on the desk, And then we add another dependent clause, by the window. Okay, by using these prepositions here. So, for another example, let's look at I read the book on the table. Okay, so we have our independent clause here, which should be I read the book. So you can say I read the book, period. But we make it a complex sentence by adding our dependent clause here, on the table. Okay. Now we can also say we give an apple to the teacher. Okay, so you can say we give an apple, or we gave an apple, or we will give an apple. Okay, these are all independent clauses which can stand on their own. So you could just add a period here if you wanted to. But we're going to make it a complex sentence by adding our dependent clause here. Okay, so to the teacher. Okay, preposition to the teacher. Okay, and then the exact same thing in Italian. So we have our soggetto and our verbo. Okay, io leggo, I read. And then we have our articolo and nome, il libro. Okay, so this could be a complete sentence here. Io leggo il libro, I read the book. But we're adding this dependent clause here. So sulla tavola. Okay, su plus la tavola. Okay, and then in our second example here, noi, we, diamo, give, una mela, an apple, alla, okay, to the, alla, professoressa, to the professor. Okay, so as you can see, we have our independent clause here, and then we just added on our dependent clause here. Okay, and that's how you build complex sentences in Italian. Okay, how to build compound sentences. What are the basic elements of a compound sentence, which is two or more independent clauses joined by a conjunction or a semicolon? Okay, so we have our independent clause plus conjunction plus independent clause. Okay, so I'll show you here. So I am, again, can be a complete sentence. I am is an independent clause. You are is an independent clause, meaning it could stand alone. And then we just put them together with a little bit of glue here with our conjunction. Okay, so I am and you are makes a longer sentence or a compound sentence. I am cold, but I have a coat. Okay, so once again, independent clause, joined together with but. And he studies or he doesn't learn. Okay, once again, we just join this independent clause with this independent clause using a conjunction. Okay, and then we have the exact same thing in Italian. So we have io sono, I am, e tu sei. Okay, I am and you are. Io ho freddo, ma io ho un cappotto. Okay, so if you remember all these little elements here, I have coldness, we'd say coldness. In Italian, you don't say I am cold, you'd say I have coldness, I guess you would say, okay? So that's just how they say it in Italian. And then lui studia, oppure lui non impara niente. Okay, so he studies or he doesn't, impara, learn, nothing. Okay, we have two negatives here together, okay, which is how you make the sentence negative in Italian. So lui studia oppure lui non impara niente. Okay, so once again, we're just making slightly longer sentences by using our conjunctions here. And that's a compound sentence. How do you make compound sentences longer? Okay, so rather than using the conjunctions, we can use our logical connectors. So uh, you could use either one. You could use the conjunctions, but we're going to go over logical connectors here because these are generally used when you're connecting longer thoughts. Okay, so I think, therefore I am, I'm hungry, however, I'm not ready to eat. Okay, so we have io penso, quindi io sono, and ho fame, comunque non sono pronto per mangiare. Okay, so we have our independent clause, and then joined with our logical connector. Okay, I hope this is making sense. It does get easier. Okay, so the more you start to get familiar with it, and the more you practice using all these little elements to form sentences, it's just going to start to come really natural to you. Okay, so it just takes some practice. Okay, we're on to quiz number 11, which is module 3.1, structural sentences. There's only 5 questions, so I'm going to go ahead and read each question aloud and the possible answers. And I'll pause for a moment to let you try and figure out what the right answer is before giving you the correct answer. But if you need more time, just go ahead and pause the video. All right, let's get started. Number 1, a simple sentence contains how many independent clauses? Choose only one best answer. A, 1, B, 2, or C, 3. Okay, so the correct answer was A. A simple sentence contains one independent clause and can be as simple as a subject and verb. This is also the most basic type of declarative sentence or a statement. For example, I am, he is a man, and we are people. Number 2, you can make a simple sentence longer by adding what? Choose all answers that apply. A, adjectives, B, adverbs, C, nouns with articles if necessary. Okay, so all of these were correct. You can make a simple sentence longer by adding adjectives, adverbs, and or nouns to the original independent clause. Number 3, a sentence composed of one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses is what type of sentence? Choose only one best answer. A, simple, B, complex, or C, compound. Okay, so the correct answer is B, complex. Just to recap, simple sentences contain one independent clause. Complex sentences contain one independent clause plus one or more dependent clauses. And compound sentences contain two or more independent clauses joined by a conjunction or semicolon. Number 4, what type of sentence is this? Ho fame, ma non voglio mangiare adesso. I'm hungry, but I don't want to eat right now. Choose only one best answer. A, simple, B, complex, or C, compound. Okay, so this is a compound sentence, which contains two or more independent clauses joined by a conjunction or semicolon. Because ho fame and non voglio mangiare adesso are independent clauses. They can stand on their own, joined by a comma and the conjunction ma. Okay, and number 5, which of the following is a compound sentence? Choose only one best answer. A. Sei una donna bellissima. You are a beautiful woman. B. Siamo al caffè vicino la piazza alla destra della chiesa. We are at the cafe near the piazza to the right of the church. Or C. Siete stanchi, però andate a scuola comunque. You all are tired, but you're going to school anyway. Okay, so the correct answer was C. Sei una donna bellissima is a simple sentence. It contains one independent clause. Siamo al caffè vicino la piazza alla destra della chiesa is a complex sentence because it contains one independent clause plus two dependent clauses. And siete stanchi, però andate a scuola comunque is a compound sentence because it contains two independent clauses connected by the conjunction però. All right, so how did you do? If there's any that you got wrong, or if you want to go back and retake the quiz, just go ahead and rewatch this video. Otherwise, I'm just going to scroll down over the correct answers here, and you can just pause the video if there's any that you want to reread. All right, great job.